produced by John DeSando. Listen to shows and read reviews online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Mary Urena.
And this is It's Movie Time.
Yay, it's time for the movies.
Yeah, since we're kind of in an athletic time here in the fall, let's do a double header.
Okay.
And also because movies are relatively ample at this point.
They are. You can tell we're coming into the holiday season.
We are. And looming Oscars, although I think they're not up until April this year.
I think you are correct, but you have to have your release date prior to consideration,
That's right.
which I think is December 31st. So lots coming out.
I think they have to show them in New York and LA for
Yes.
a week.
Yes.
Before the 1st. Right, so we've got a couple. I don't know if they're going to be, there are contentious things about them that I think we're going to be hearing about them, but we have Tick, Tick, Boom and Spencer. One about Jonathan Larson and the other about Princess Di.
Yes, both contemporaries in my life, which seems a little odd
I
that
know.
films are being made about contemporaries in my life.
I know.
Where did the time go?
Now the one that people are going to be less knowledgeable about is Tick, Tick, Boom, Mary. What is that?
Well, Jonathan Larson, they are probably familiar with his most famous work, Rent. Tick, Tick, Boom is an adaptation of a musical that he worked on prior to Rent and was really designed by him as a one-man show. And he was a prolific songwriter. So it's a one-man show expressed through song about his angst about turning 30 in 1990 without having written his great opus.
Well, Stephen Sondheim already had done it by
27.
So he's already behind.
He's behind, exactly.
And Sondheim does appear, that is Bradley Whitford.
Yeah, and a nice turn.
Great job.
And a very nice turn.
And
in a limited role, nice turn.
Yeah, Sondheim was an early supporter
yes.
of Jonathan Larson.
Really a mentor. I mean, he not only was an inspiration as an artist, but the relationship that's portrayed through Tick, Tick, Boom actually had some validity to it in that he took an early interest in Jonathan Larson's work and criticized but also encouraged him along the way.
Now, Mary, is this Spider-Man playing him or what?
It is. Andrew Garfield. I was blown away. I had no idea that he could sing and at all, let alone as well as he does in this film. I mean, it's really quite a turn for him, and he's on screen
all the time, I think.
100% of the time.
Yeah.
It felt that way anyway.
Yeah, so don't be put off by that. The man actually is quite talented.
He is, indeed.
So I'll try not to untangle what you've done a very good job about, which is Tick, Tick, Boom is the production he wanted to mount, but it also includes, this movie includes references to Superbia.
Superbia, yeah, and a little bit of a background on this is Jonathan Larson, coming out of college, actually worked on and mounted 2 productions for which he received financial support for and some young artists recognition and awards for. But then he fell into working on Superbia, which interestingly was viewed as science fiction, but it was more about how technology advanced to the point in society that people became very self-absorbed, which we would refer to as social media today. So Jonathan was very ahead of his time.
Oh boy, he was. And the thing that you may put you off a little bit about his character is how self-absorbed he is.
Well, I think he's portrayed as any creative artist, you know, who's dedicated to a project.
I know.
And he's very self-absorbed, but there's something about him that's still charming and appealing.
Is it Susan? Who is his love?
Susan.
Yeah, Susan.
A dancer.
Yeah, that's the thing that put me off a little bit about him, is that here she was begging him to ask her to stay rather than take a job in the Berkshires, and
He was
wow.
so focused
I know.
on his opus, this 8-year
Yeah.
project working on Superbia.
The music, Mary. What about this music that we're seeing through the whole movie, actually?
It definitely qualifies as a movie musical, and I actually liked it. And given that I wasn't a huge fan of Rent in total, for which he posthumously, Jonathan Larson won the Pulitzer Prize, he won the Tony, 3 Tonys actually, Drama Desks Awards. I wasn't a huge fan of it from start to finish. I liked certain songs in Rent, but it did change Broadway musicals because of the modern rock and music that was used for it.
Taking everyday subjects
Yes.
and facing AIDS.
In the time of AIDS.
Yeah, and it does a very good job on this one with his friend Michael, and I really applaud them for that. They handle it very well.
They
but
do.
He's got people dying all around him.
Right, and I think it was, I watched the film simultaneously with a friend of mine who works in public health, and we talked afterwards about how HIV/AIDS at its height was such a scourge, and all of us throughout society knew people who were being diagnosed and dying these horrible deaths. Now it's a chronic disease that can be managed, but it was just horrible. And you look at the lens that we're in now with the pandemic, and it harkens back to that.
All right, Mary. All right. Well, let's jump
lift it
over.
up.
Let's jump over to something far happier and brighter. It would be Spencer.
Wow, that's happier and brighter.
Everything is
you
relative.
You need to see a doctor.
All right, this is Princess Di. What does it tell us?
It's a fable, as it states in the beginning.
Right in the beginning, thank you.
And
yeah.
it's really, I would say it's inspired by, but really supposes what an intense weekend with the royal family.
Yeah, Sandringham at their 6-story, 20,000-acre estate.
Right.
Incredible.
And it's beautiful, but it's also suffocating.
Oh my gosh, it is.
And
yes.
we were viewing this gathering of the royal family over Christmas weekend in 1991, which is about a year before Prince Charles and Princess Diana officially separated.
They've been 10 years in their marriage.
Right. And it's really, it takes rumors and some facts and fantastically puts them together in this one intense weekend, examining Diana's isolation from the royal family, her cries for help through her mental and emotional struggles with bulimia and cutting, and it really takes us on what was a 10-year, 11-year journey and compresses it into 3 days.
Sure.
But at the end, she does find a sense of release and freedom after being on the brink of committing suicide.
Yeah, and everything that we suspected about her bulimia, her despair, is there. And I think Kristen Stewart should be nominated. I'm not sure she's going to win, but would you agree?
I think, no.
Go ahead. Okay, good.
The reason being is that I found her physical presence to be a little stiff. And I thought the material she had to work with didn't ring true all of the time. And so it really kind of, for me, impacted the depth of her performance, because in some respects it was so fantastical, it felt superficial to me.
All right.
So
yeah, she does play at one note.
Yeah.
And Di, I think, was probably much more
nuanced.
Yeah,
complex.
That's what I think. Although maybe not. I don't know. It's the way Stewart is interpreting it. And of course, I'm coming from a guy who said this actress will never make it after Twilight. And I think she and Rob Pattinson have done quite a bit to burnish their images. So I'm really pleased about it, because I'm not asking for it to be a caricature, but rather looking at it as a performance of a troubled human being, gifted. I mean, you gotta love when she goes into the diner. Mary, what a great scene.
It is a great scene.
At the beginning.
It is a great scene.
She's driving around in her Porsche, another good touch, and
in the countryside, trying to find Sandringham.
1 mile away from where she grew up.
Yeah, and she can't find it.
She can't find it. So the metaphor is obvious.
Right.
And maybe a little bit too heavy-handed.
A little bit too heavy-handed.
I know, but there are great moments like, and the other moment for me is when she's with her attendant, played by Sally Hawkins.
Yes.
Is it Margaret?
Maggie.
Maggie. Yeah, Maggie. I found the scene between them when Maggie discloses feelings that she has toward Di, a beautiful scene. Was that?
It's a beautiful scene, but to me it felt very out of context.
Well, and
of like the whole weekend that you're seeing. And Maggie is allegedly sent away because she's sympathetic to Diana by Charles. She's sent away. And then for some mysterious reason, after Diana begs for her to come back, she comes back.
All right, Mary, I got to interrupt you and ask you, is there any possible conjunction between the two movies we have discussed?
Well, for me, I think other than being about my contemporaries, which just seems really wrong to have biopics about people my age, but they both tell the stories of Diana and Jonathan in a movie-making style that blends reality with fantasy.
Thank you.
And so you never, like, you're kind of watching both of these films and going, well, what's really happening and what's really more in the minds? And I think with Spencer, it's about somebody's mental and emotional anguish and illness, where you're seeing these interplays of reality and fantasy. With Tick, Tick, Boom, it's really about Jonathan Larson's incredible, fertile, creative mind and how he looks at the world. And there's my favorite scene in Tick, Tick, Boom. You mentioned the diner in Spencer. Jonathan Larson actually worked at a diner part-time while he was working on his opus. And he has this fantastical scene during a Sunday brunch service at the diner where all of a sudden it turns into this who's who on Broadway with about 20 cameos of famous Broadway performers singing this incredible song about Sunday at the diner.
Well, instead
of Sunday in the Park by Stephen Sondheim.
You've had your moment, and I'm going to have my moment before we have to sign off.
Okay.
By saying I think we are looking at two somewhat lonely, very gifted, uncertain people, and yeah, so I think we have a good one. And Mary Arena, thank you.
Thank you, John. Happy Thanksgiving.